So early access for the War Within has released, and that means tons of new ways to make ridiculous amounts of gold. So in this video, I want to go over what's one of the best current ways to be making gold in the new expansion. And this is going to be an AoE mob grinding location that's more focused on farming a lot of the new cloths of this expansion. So you are going to have a specific setup to do this, but it's completely worth it. And it's actually really simple as well. And I'm also not going to be going over a gold per hour amount or anything like that, just because the prices are fluctuating way too much right now, kind of like how they do every expansion. But this is also a bit different because we have the early access period. Then we're going to have another massive group of players coming in once the full release of the expansion is released. So the prices are going to heavily fluctuate again when that happens. So going over a gold per hour doesn't make a ton of sense, but this spot still makes you just ridiculous amounts of gold. And just coming here a few times, you'll be making mountains of gold. And the location is actually going to be right under Dornegal, so it's actually going to be very easy to get to early on. And these aren't going to be like any level 80 specific mobs, so they do scale, so you can do these on level 70s, you can do this on any new characters, and it's super easy to get to right when you get to the expansion zones. And all you're going to be doing is sitting in this small spot and killing a bunch of instantly respawning Nerubians. That's legitimately all you're going to do. It's going to be very simple. None of these mobs have super strong attacks. You're not even going to be grouping up a ton of mobs like we've seen in previous expansions, where sometimes you'll have dozens and dozens and dozens of enemies on screen at a time. This one is just a small location with a handful of mobs that you can kill quickly that'll instantly respawn. And they're humanoids, which is actually very important because that is how cloth is going to drop in this expansion. Now, similar to some previous expansions, in the War Within, you won't get cloth drops unless you have tailoring. Once you learn the War Within tailoring, you will get the passive that allows cloths to drop. So that's the first thing you're going to need. You're going to need tailoring, and we're going to also go over how to massively increase the gold beyond just having base tailoring, which you can do pretty heavily. Now, you will also be getting a good amount of gray items you can sell for gold. You can make a decent bit of raw gold off this. You will also be getting a good chunk of greens, which you can always either just sell as greens. They can sell, especially if you're higher level. There's not a ton of ways to get super high gear right now, and you can actually get some pretty high item level greens compared to all of the other gear you can get. So if you're level 80 doing this, you could sell those, or you can disenchant them, and enchanting materials are quite a lot right now as well. You can also get any of your characters as an enchanter and spec them into better disenchanting, which will be able to make you even more gold. But if you want to most optimize a character, you can go into tailoring so you can get the cloth drops. Then you can also go into inscription, because that's what will allow the Dark Moon Fair cards to drop. Now, these seem to be dropping pretty frequently, so they're probably not going to be super expensive unless you like spec into crafting the actual trinkets themselves. That will probably be able to make you a lot of gold, but just the base cards will make you more gold, but they drop pretty frequently, so they're not going to be like crazy expensive. Now, I wasn't doing this. I just had a tailor and an enchanter, but if you want to absolutely min-max, a tailor and an inscription is going to be best for this. Now, those are the main elements of this farm, but there's ways to make a lot more gold, specifically when going into tailoring specializations. Because at a baseline, all you're going to be getting with a tailor is a weaver cloth, and it's going to be quality 1. That's kind of the base cloth of this expansion. But going into specializations, you can start to get weaver cloth bolts. You could start to get dawn weave, which is another cloth. You could start to get dusk weave, which is also another cloth. Or you could also specialize into getting higher quality of cloths, which would mean you'd be getting like weaver cloth maybe at quality 2 or potentially even at quality 3. So there's a lot of different ways to specialize. I'm not sure which one is going to make the most gold, but we can go into some of the options you have. So now we're in game and we can take a look at a handful of the different specialization options you have for tailoring that can massively increase your gold from this location or other mob grinds that are definitely going to show up. Now, the first thing is just an increase in the amount of drops you're going to be getting, which is in the textile treasures, and you'll just be getting increases to the amount of cloth drops you can get. First, learning this is going to give you the ability to actually get weaver cloth bolts from humanoids as well. So now you'll be getting the weaver cloth and you'll be getting the bolts at a baseline, which will pretty heavily increase your gold. You'll get another 5% increase to the chance to find cloth from humanoids, another 10% chance, another 10%, then you'll also be able to learn another specialization, which doesn't really affect this farm, another 10%, and then finally another 25% chance. And these are all just chances to find cloth anytime you loot a humanoid. So you're going to be getting a substantially increased amount of cloth just from going into these 30 points. And I think this is the safest option. You're not specializing more into go into something else that may have less cost. This is just an increase to all cloth you're going to be getting. So I think unless you're trying to do something specific, this is going to be the best. Now, depending on how much you progress and how many specialization points you actually have, if you go into this and get to 30 points and you have enough points, you can also go into from dawn until dusk. You're also going to need level 50 in tailoring to unlock another one of these specializations. But what this does is the first section right away is going to allow you to learn another sub-specialization, and you have two different options. You have a dawn weave tailoring, which when you go into this, now anytime you loot a humanoid, you have a chance to also find dawn weave, which is just another one of the cloths you can get. It's generally going to be more expensive than the base cloth as well. Or you can go into dusk weave, which is just going to give you a chance to find dusk weave as well. So you can go into either one of these. I chose to go into dawn weave after maxing out textile treasures. So now I'm getting a bunch of additional cloth, I'm getting bolts, and now I'm also getting a bunch of dawn weave. But if you want to go another angle, you can go into quality fabrics. Now, quality fabrics is how you're going to get higher quality cloth drops from humanoids. But going into this, you're not going to be able to get textile treasures and get those massive increases to the amount of cloth you're going to be getting. Because once you get into quality fabric and you go up here, once you're halfway done, cloth from humanoids will now sometimes drop as quality 2. And then once you finish this, cloth from humanoids will sometimes drop as quality 3. Now, the thing is, when going into this, unless there's a way to get a lot more points I don't know about, you won't be able to go into textile treasures, so you'll have less drops, you won't be able to get bolts, but you will also still be able to go and get from dawn until dusk, and you'll be able to either choose dusk weave or dawn weave, which also means you should be able to get dusk weave or dawn weave at the higher qualities as well. So this may end up allowing you to make more gold, but it really all depends on how the prices come out, because it could come out that a lot of people went into this and a ton of people are just farming quality 2 and quality 3 cloth, and it's just making less gold than you could be making just getting a lot more cloth, getting bolts, and then also getting either dawn weave or dusk weave. So that's pretty much your options you're going to be going into. You have a few different ways you could go about this, but either way, you're going to want to progress your tailoring to go into these, because whichever one you choose is going to just massively increase the gold you could be making from this and other farm spots. But that's pretty much the entirety of this farm spot. It's incredibly good. You're able to massively increase it. Like I mentioned, even going past increasing your tailoring and going into the specializations, you can also go into inscription to start getting card drops. And if you have an enchanter, you can go into disenchanting specialization to disenchant these greens to get even more materials from all the green drops you're going to be getting. This is going to be making a ridiculous amount of gold. I'm not sure how it's going to land after the official launch comes through. Presumably prices will go up a bit, maybe the first day or two, then go back down and start going down as we normally see, but that'll give you a lot of opportunities to make a massive amount of gold here. And later on, I might re-go over this farm spot if it doesn't get nerfed to give you a specific gold amount once prices normalize a bit more. But that's all I want to go over, so thanks for watching.